This week, Qatar is marking the one-year anniversary of the boycott against it. It was last June that a Saudi-led alliance, including the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Egypt, abruptly severed ties, accusing Qatar of supporting terrorism and Iran. But 1 year on, Qatar's foreign minister says his country is stronger than ever. To talk more about that with me now, I'm joined on the set by Rochelle Ferguson-Bouaille, who's with us from our International Affairs Desk. Rochelle, first of all, just remind us, what sparked this diplomatic crisis between the one-time close allies?
Well, you touched on it there, Jeannie. There are two principal concerns, which the four Arab states who are now boycotting Qatar have. They accuse Qatar of supporting terror organisations, particularly jihadi movements across the region in Syria and in Libya. Now, that's a charge, it's important to say, that Doha firmly denies. Those four Arab nations are also very concerned about Qatar seemingly cozying up with Tehran, so with Iran, and we're seeing the whole Shiite-Sunni division coming in there. They say that, look, with Iran being so close to Qatar, they're meddling a little too much in Arab affairs. Now, what's also interesting on this is that these four, let's call them the anti-Doha quartet for argument's sake, they've put forward a series of demands that they want met before they will consider warming of ties or warming relations with Qatar. Now, I won't go through all of them, there are 13 in total, but mainly they want them to cut links with radical groups, particularly the Muslim Brotherhood, which Qatar has been accused of supporting. They also want them to close or take off air the state-owned channel, which is Al-Jazeera, and that's been at the centre of a lot of the conflict between these countries. Plus, and we maybe talk a little bit about that later, they want Doha to expel Turkish troops which are on its soil, because as part of this diplomatic severing of ties, Qatar has got a little bit closer with Turkey.
The Qatari foreign minister I was mentioning before says his country is stronger than ever. Is that really the case? Has this isolationism been all bad?
Well, there's no doubt that this isolation has had a huge both economic and financial impact on Qatar. Let's remind our viewers, Jeannie, that this is a land, air and sea blockade, which means that, for example, on a national level, Qatar is having to spend a huge amount of money getting staples like food into the country, something that they could have done quite easily before. Now, since Saudi Arabia closed its border with Qatar, that's become ever more expensive for the Qataris. Now, on an international scale, the airspace of those four countries has been closed to Qatar Airways, which means now they're having to choose, the carrier is having to get much longer journeys before they can actually land in Qatar.
So 1 year on, have the stakes changed in this crisis?
Well, the stakes, I mean, it's interesting, Jean, if you speak to Qatari analysts, some will tell you that there is a kind of geopolitical silver lining with all this. They say because of the fact that Qatar is no longer backed by these countries or in cahoots with these countries, inadvertently they can back away from some of the more troubling conflicts in the Middle East, particularly what's happening in Yemen at the moment with the Saudi-led coalition and the Houthi rebels there. So still, the stakes are high. Neither side is budging on their positions. That includes Doha, who says we do not plan to meet these demands in any way, shape or form. And what some analysts are saying is this could yet go on for years, Jeannie.
All right, Rochelle, thank you for that. Rochelle Ferguson-Bouaille there telling us about that ongoing boycott against Qatar.